Hi, Andrea. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And somatic therapy, somatic healing is something I've been really wanting to learn about. And I just love the divine timing of all this. I have a few different friends who have been working with different people in Sedona doing somatic therapy. And like I mentioned to you, as soon as we are done recording this podcast, I'm going to see Dr. Emma in San Clemente. I've had Dr. Emma on my podcast here. She's a chiropractor, but one of the things that she does is help people remove emotions, trapped emotions from the body, or heal traumatic events from this life or past lives during their treatment. So I am not that familiar with somatic therapy, but I'm familiar with that type of work. So I just want to learn more about that from you today, so people can kind of add this to their tool belt in just living a great life.
Amazing. Yeah, somatic work has literally changed my life in so many ways and my clients' lives and I think it's getting more and more recognition, which I'm
Yeah.
really happy about. And I think there has been, uncertainty, or like you said, people don't really know what it is. And if they know what it is, it can be really scary and it can sound really scary to open that door. But really, what we need in this world and for ourselves more than ever is the connection to our bodies.
Yes, absolutely. And to like be super comfortable in our bodies so we can show up and live our life.
Mhm.
Because that's the whole point. We have to have a physical experience. We can't just live in our daydreams and our fantasies. We have to go out and be it and live it. So, what is somatic therapy? When you tell people what you do, what's the definition?
So there's a bunch of different ways and a bunch of different somatic therapies. Soma just means body. So what I do is I facilitate and use somatic breath work more than anything. And
Really?
so what we do is we use the breath to really bridge that connection to our body and our subconscious and the deeper layers where, like we talked about, where we usually store a lot of trauma. And it's stored in our cells, it's stored in our fascia, in our bodies. And somatic breath work is really a way of using our breath to bridge that gap and to be able to release any trapped emotions, any stored emotions, any trauma, any pain, and just really, gain more clarity and connect to our soul and our spirit and just quiet the noise of our minds and our thoughts, which is so needed.
Yeah, it's really quieting the noise for sure. But I feel like there's also times where like you can feel the physical emotion that you're storing in your body and you
Mhm.
know you need to get it out, and going for a run or doing a yoga class, like moving the body isn't doing it. It feels really stuck in there. Do you know
Mhm.
what I'm referring to? That feeling where it's just stuck in your tissue?
Yeah, and I think, there's different layers. And when we movement in general is beautiful for moving energy. Like emotion is energy in motion, right? So when we
Yes.
feel an emotion, it's such a beautiful way to use movement, whether that is running, whether that is dancing, whether that is stretching, whatever you feel like your body needs, it will tell you what it needs in the moment. But then there are things that we have suppressed for years, for decades, that are so, so, so deeply stored that that type of movement isn't really enough. It
Yeah,
might
'cause
be
you don't even
good
know
for
it's
the
there.
surface level emotions, but the deep, deep ones, like we have to access that a different way.
So, why do people make appointments with you, or why would someone make an appointment for somatic healing?
I would say everyone should.
Yeah, I agree.
Regardless of like if you're a human, period. I think you need this. I do it with myself. Like there's not a point where we get to where we're like fully healed. It's like, getting ourselves in shape and then we're like, okay, I don't have to work out anymore.
So
Um,
true.
so I think anyone, but especially people that feel like they have a hard time accessing their emotions, expressing their emotions, if they have experienced past experiences, traumatic experiences, or they feel like they have some blockages, when we like, I want to feel this way or I want to achieve this or whatever, but I don't know what's holding me back. And
Ooh,
we all have some limitations. We all have, our limiting beliefs, which
yeah.
is at the core coming from, the root, which is usually an experience or trauma. So whenever we want to like move beyond that and heal something within us and remove the limitations and the blockages, this is the most beautiful practice.
I forgot that we could use it that way because so much of what I feel like myself and my friends have been doing is turning to practitioners to relieve a feeling. So I had a
Mm.
friend that recently moved and she wasn't feeling settled yet in the place that she had moved to just because she had been traveling so much. So she booked a somatic healing session just to help her get rooted and grounded into her new home and let go of anything that she may have been carrying from her recent travels or from where she just moved from.
Mhm.
Um, I go to the people that I have do body work on me to remove trapped emotions, simply just because I had a breakup 6 months ago and I
Mhm.
was still sad about it. And I knew I had hit a place where I shouldn't be sad anymore. I need to move on. So I booked a session to figure out like what was the root cause of not allowing me to move on so I can continue to move forward in my life. But I didn't even think about turning it to business or where I am in my life and seeing what's stopping me from kind of taking and moving to the next level. So if someone is feeling like they're stuck in their life, in their career, where they're living, and they book a session for somatic therapy, somatic healing, like what should they expect to be walked through to figure out what that block is that's causing them to stay stagnant?
I usually say don't have any expectations. But obviously we have a conversation in the session prior and see if there's something specific
Okay.
that they want to focus on and move through, and I tailor the session specifically to that. But
Okay.
it's also about honoring like your body's wisdom. So sometimes people come into the session with this expectation of releasing something and it shows them something completely different.
Okay. Yeah.
And that is the beauty of trusting yourself and trusting your intuition. And like you might have an idea of the limitations that you have, but when you completely surrender to your intuition and your truth, it will show you what you need to have clarity on.
Okay. So, do you do your appointments in person, remote, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you guide us kind of on what a session looks like, how
Mhm.
it opens up, and what we can expect so we're not kind of scared to book a session?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's not like me. I realize I'm just like, oh, if I get a feeling, I'll do it. I don't need to know what it is. But
I'm the same person. Like, I know when it's time for me to try a new type
Mhm.
of work in order
Mhm.
to remove a layer of my onion.
Yeah, and I understand it might be scary to a lot of people. So I always say the session is about 90 minutes. So it allows us to have some time prior so that I can get to know you a little bit better. We have conversations about, like I said, if there's anything specific that you want to focus on, anything that you have going on in your life. And then I take you through about an hour of breath work, which sounds like a long time.
It does. It does. It sounds like a long time and it sounds hard. Uh, so tell me about that. So am I sitting in a chair? Am I laying down? What
Lying
does
down.
it look like?
You're
Okay.
lying down. And it's so how I structure it is that the first half of the session is the more intense part. And the second half of the session is a more relaxed, you get to just surrender into a deep meditation. So it's not really a full hour of the work, but breath work is work. It's called that for a reason. But we tend to forget that we will forget or not know space and time when we're in it. It might be a little like hard for the first couple of minutes, especially if we're new to it. But then if you can surrender to it, you won't know that it's an hour.
Okay.
Um, and then you have my full support and guidance along the way. So I'm always there for you, next to you with my voice. I guide you with my breath. I do some hands-on touch and some Reiki energy healing as well. And then we have some time to just integrate after. and talk about whatever came up for you in the experience.
So during the breath work, how do things come up? Can you share with me some examples?
Yeah, I mean, it's so different for everyone. That's what I talk about when I introduce the session, is that every emotion is welcomed. It's about full acceptance and full embrace of every part of you that wants to show up. And sometimes it's laughter, sometimes it's, crying, sometimes it's anger, and whatever expression that your body wants to do is welcomed and completely normal. I've been in a room where there's 150 people in one session. Everyone's having a complete different experience.
Got it.
Everyone's having a complete different expression. And no session is the same. Like, even when you keep doing it, it's going to be different every time.
Who created this type of healing mechanism through breath work and prompts?
I honestly don't know. I know there's a lot of different ones and different techniques. I mean, we see Wim Hof, he's a big one. There's, you go back to Kundalini and the type of
Mm-hmm.
breathing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's really, different techniques that are coming out of this, and everyone is kind of creating their own modality. And I mean, that's what I do as well. I combine my Reiki and my energy healing and my coaching along with the somatic work. So I think, it just have taken different paths, and there's different ways of doing it.
Who did you study and learn from?
I studied with Somatic Release, they're called, and I did an intensive in Arizona with them. So it was an in-person certification. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I do. Have you heard of the Sukshma method by Dr. Michael Joseph Lovery?
No.
So I do the Sukshma method. I prefer to only go and do it in person. And so Dr. Michael Joseph Lovery, it's a form of Kundalini yoga, but it's
Hmm.
more breath work based. And you
Okay.
start standing and you end sitting.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's very much breath work based, and they play certain sound vibrations at the same time. But I just did an in-person class last weekend, and I was like bawling for the entire 90 minutes.
Mm.
And then they also do something called harmonium healing, where you can do a session of that afterwards. So you can just make sure you move any of the final trapped energy kind of out of the spine, out of the kundalini, out of the body. But
Good.
it's all so helpful because most people are walking around with stuff that they're holding on to that's really not serving them.
Mhm.
And I feel like the older we get, the more that we can see it on ourselves or we can see it on other people. But we have to let it go. And so we need to find these tools in order to do so.
Yeah, and we're not taught that, in
Mm.
early age, that, you shouldn't suppress your emotions. We're actually told the opposite. Like, when we're children and we express an emotion freely, it's like that's not really right, or, we need to be quiet or whatever it is. So we kind of mold into this conditioning of suppressing our emotions from such an early age.
Yeah, and I think that even when you've been studying this work for a long time, we can still do that,
Mhm.
unconsciously kind of stuff down. How do you regularly make sure that you're not holding stuff in? Do you make sure to do breath work on yourself? Do you work with other practitioners to support you? Tell me a little bit about your routine.
I do both. So I have people that I see myself for energy healing, Reiki, breath work. If I feel like I really want to be held and supported, which we all need that, even,
Mhm.
as practitioners and leaders. And then I also do it on myself. So I do longer sessions if I feel like I really need it, or
Yeah.
I do it in my daily practice of movement and breath work every day when I meditate. So I make sure to make that a part of my practice.
Who are the practitioners that you like working with right now on yourself?
So I have a friend of mine that does Reiki. Her name is Theo. And then I have another friend that does somatic breath work. Her name is Michelle. So those are the two people. And then obviously I have my mentors from Somatic Release. And we have a community. So there's always support that we can like reach out to each other and even collaborate if we're, in the same cities or in the same countries. I think it's really beautiful that we can connect and stay connected and help each other out.
Yeah. What are the transformations that you've seen? So, if someone is looking to kind of try this out,
Mhm.
what are the things that you've seen people release or be able to move on with?
Oh. So everything. I can say I have two clients recently. I had one of my clients, he was really trying to figure out like the root of his poor self-esteem and trying to gain more confidence.
Mhm.
And we did a couple of sessions, and in one session he connected to a memory when he was 7 that he had completely suppressed, like had no memory of this. And he understood that that was the whole root of those limiting beliefs, of that poor self-esteem and that confidence. And for him to realize that in that moment were just like, it changed his whole life.
Yeah, it sets you free.
In one moment. And
Yeah.
that was so powerful. I also have another client of mine that's she's still a client. She was struggling with, or she is struggling with PCOS, and she hadn't had her cycle in 4 months. And we had our breathwork session, and she got her cycle back the next day.
Amazing. Because there was an energetic block.
Hmm.
And so, for people that aren't familiar with the word energetic block, how do you
Hmm.
describe that to people?
So I would say, I mean, like we talked about there, we have our emotions
Hmm.
and it's energy in motion. So when we don't put it in motion, it has to go somewhere. Like there's no way. So if we're not expressing it out outside of us, it has to go somewhere in our bodies, and it will trap somewhere in our bodies. And that's where it becomes a blockage. And usually I do a lot of chakra work, and usually we can see the correlation between our 7 different chakras and the emotional blockages that connects with that. So for example, if you are struggling with your expression of who you are and your voice and your truth, that can show up in like thyroid issues and different health issues with your throat. And so it can go as far as physical manifestations and
Yes.
illness in our bodies.
I completely agree. And as a health supportive chef, working with clients who hire me because they have food allergies, they have chronic inflammation, and they want me to improve their diet or prepare foods a certain way so they can heal. But I often find that, you can't fully eliminate foods forever. There's a root cause, and we have to figure out the root cause as to why all these foods are causing you inflammation. And I find most of the time it's trapped emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the older you get, it seems the more food allergies people develop. So that means there's experiences that they've had or emotions that are holding in that are now causing them to have these reactions to food. Have you worked with any clients who have come to you for physical inflammation, food allergies, digestive issues?
Not specifically that, but I know within myself, I have had so many issues with my digestion. Like my gut has always been my primary problem.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that when I was little, I was extremely stressed because of how
Mhm.
I grew up. I grew up with a father that was struggling with mental illness and addiction. And so I was constantly like on edge and constantly worried. And that's so connected to our gut, right? So my gut already started to develop this like blockages and this energetic, like all my stress and everything went to my gut. So
Mhm.
later on in life, I was sensitive because it was already there. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just about what I was eating, because I started, as a personal trainer and nutritionist, and I was very focused on what I was eating until I realized it doesn't really matter what I eat unless I nurture my nervous system and take care of
Yes.
my stress and really focus on that. That's when I finally saw the change.
I noticed the same thing, after years of experimenting on myself and then just also witnessing changes in clients. It's I
Mhm.
can eat the same thing year round, but it's my emotions that cause the change in how my body looks and feels and how my gut's working.
Yeah, and I think
It's
that's so important for people to know, and especially women that I feel like
yes.
struggle with so much body image. And I've had a lot of clients, especially when I was focusing on training and physical health, they came to me with a desire of looking and feeling a certain way. But you can only do so much with movement and nutrition, because that is that is very supportive, but it is surface level unless you deal with what is underneath that and the root of it and your emotions and your stress and your nervous system. There's so many layers.
Yeah, so the workouts are great for the physical body, but you
Mm-hmm.
got to work the emotional body, which is also connected to the spiritual body, which then
Mm-hmm.
quiets the mental body. Or I would say it frees the mental body when you do
Yeah,
work like this.
definitely. It's all connected.
Are there signs for people that are listening and they're still not sure if they should find a somatic therapist to work with or reach out to you? Are there signs that people can look for in their life, on their body, within themselves that shows them they have kind of blocked energy?
I think how you feel is the sign, you know? I think if you really ask yourself, how do I feel?
Hmm.
Am I happy? Am I at peace? And if you're not, then what is actually there? And I think people just don't sit with themselves in stillness, or it's scary to have the courage to be honest with yourself. But I think how you're feeling. Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling at peace? Or are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling on edge? Are you feeling anxious? Are you, how you feel is the indicator of there's something going on in your body that's out of alignment. And if you can't logically, on a conscious level, figure it out, just let your body speak for a moment. And when you do somatic work, you get to do that. You get to quiet your mind and you get to drop into your body, and your body will tell you.
That's really great. Do you have any other tips for feeling stressed? I think that's, especially with the holidays coming up, it's
Mm-hmm.
really easy to feel pulled in multiple directions, and it's hard to make choices to put yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like you have to be so many places, you have to show up for so many people. What are your tips for managing stress?
I mean, I think that's a ongoing work with ourselves, honoring ourselves, the true self-love, honoring our boundaries, saying no, honoring our energy. That's the big inner work that we most of us have to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that comes from an honesty of being like, what do I need? What's true to me? What makes me happy? And being unapologetic about that, and trusting that when we show up for ourselves, we are the best version to everyone else around us, and it's not selfish. So, but on a smaller scale, of
Yeah, yeah.
tangible tips, I would say, breath work and meditation. It doesn't have to be an hour, it doesn't have to be long, but
Hmm.
just connecting to our breath, slowing our breath down, reminding ourselves to breathe down in our bellies and not up in our chest, which we do a lot when we're stressed. Um, just having a moment to sit quietly with ourselves, go out in nature
Yes, that makes such a
and
difference.
ground yourself. Yeah, just, put your feet in the grass and try not to consume so much, get off social media. That
Yeah.
is draining. It takes a lot of energy, whether we, notice it or not, but it does. So just everything is energy. So just be mindful of where you're putting your energy and what gives you energy, and allow yourself to say no to the things that drains you and do the things that gives you energy.
What are the things that are giving you energy right now? What's lighting you up at the moment?
My work, the what
Oh,
I do, my clients, sunlight, nature. I went hiking this morning, in Griffith Park in LA, and I was just like,
yeah.
and then I laid on the grass after. I'm gonna go dance tonight. That brings me energy, like all the little things. And I try to be really unapologetic about the things that I need.
I love that. Is there anything kind of in this health, wellness, spiritual space right now that you're really into? And you're in the Mecca. I feel like LA is one of the greatest places on the planet for uncovering just great ways to nourish ourselves. What are you into right now?
I think not much has changed. Like I've always been into movement. I've always been into like nutrition. What I put in my body is everything. Um, and being out in nature, breath work, meditation. I think really coming back to myself. Because I think when we're also in this healing space, we can be so wrapped up in like looking for the next thing or the next, cool thing that can help me heal. And we just like there's so much, right? And I think we forget the foundation of just being with ourselves.
Yeah. And just living.
Yeah, and just doing the things that makes us feel good. And if there's something that doesn't feel good, we get to change.
Yeah.
And our desires change all the time. We change all the time. So just allowing us to reevaluate what we need in the moment, because we're in different seasons throughout our lives. So sometimes we might need more of something, and the focus lies on maybe going to the gym or doing Pilates or running or breath work, and it gets to be different. So we get to just ask ourselves, what do I need right now in this season in my life?
Are there books or podcasts that you have listened to or leaned on that have been really supportive in your journey and your learning and your work?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think what podcast. I actually listened to this podcast called Know Thyself
Oh
today.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great podcast
Which
series.
I love because I think it's very, very heartfelt conversations, very, focused on the spiritual side without the surface level. I think there's a lot of surface level. Yeah, right now on social media, there's a lot of things that are the same. So I think that podcast is very refreshing. I love the Huberman Lab, the nerd in me, the science of things. Earlier in my journey, I turned a lot to Joe Dispenza, which we all
Hmm.
know. Um, and yeah, I just try to listen to the things that really speak to my soul. And I think it's important that we look for inspiration, but we don't get too wrapped up in that and forget, the knowing of um what we need for ourselves.
I completely agree. Do you have a meditation practice you like? There's so many different types of ways that you can meditate with music, without music, following prompts, not following prompts.
Mhm.
I know that over the past 20 years, I've constantly changed the style of meditation that I do. What style are you currently doing?
So I do breath work. I always combine a little bit of breath work, even just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I always do a gratitude meditation. That's what I'm currently focused on, which I think, we all can remind ourselves about the things that we're grateful for. And I usually write them down, but I think it's really beautiful to implement that in a meditation. So that's what I've been
I like
doing
that.
lately.
I think I'll add that. I usually write it down too. I really like doing the 5 minute journal. I've gone through phases where like I step away from the 5 minute journal and I just find that my life isn't as magical and joyful. Um, when I step away from it, when I do it regularly, my life is just a lot lighter and easier. And I think a lot of it is just taking the moment to write down the things that I'm grateful for first thing in the
Mhm.
morning.
Yeah. And also, I'm really into visualizing and visualization meditations to really just bring focus and remind myself of my vision and where I'm
Mm.
heading towards and the future and who I want to be. And I think that's a really important key to transformation, and moving towards, what we actually desire.
Do you have any tips for people that are maybe struggling to see a higher vision of their life? And I think we all have gone through phases where like the road is so clear, and then we go through phases where we're like, I guess I could envision that for myself, but like maybe there's something better and I don't even know what that is.
We definitely all have those seasons in our lives or those periods of time where we feel like, okay, I lost connection. I think stillness and solitude is key. I think I can notice myself kind of grasping outside of myself in those times to
Mm,
see, like, okay, can I get some kind of direction? Like, and it's never outside of ourselves.
yeah.
And I think we just have to, in those moments, sit with ourselves. And usually there's some kind of resistance or something that feels uncomfortable. Maybe we've outgrown our desires or our current reality and we don't really want to admit it. We might want
Yeah.
to change completely, and that's uncomfortable. So I think really trying to not look outside of ourselves and just try to sit in stillness of what is here, because you already know the answers and you know the truth. And like I said, a somatic breathwork session or somatic work could be really supportive in that way too, because you get to shut off your logical mind. And that's what we do when we have these big desires or we desire change, and our mind goes like, wait, this doesn't make sense, and this is not what I thought that I
Yes.
wanted. And we get all these like intrusive thoughts, but if you really just quiet that for a moment and connect to your truth, you know you're on the right path and you get to change and you get to embrace that. And, it's all working for you.
Yeah, because if you need to turn off the mind for a second, otherwise, if you have the vision, limiting beliefs come in right away to stop
Mhm.
you from figuring out that that is possible
Yeah.
because you think it all has to be linear.
Mhm.
So that's a great reminder that sometimes, and that's what a lot of people talk about when they do Kundalini yoga is, they quiet the mind for a minute. They
Mhm.
clear a channel so a light can come in
Mhm.
and the information can just drop on in and we can't resist it.
Yeah. Because otherwise, if we listen to our mind, there's always going to be some kind of resistance, usually.
It is that darn resistance.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I feel like sometimes you can feel it all over your body too.
Mhm.
Especially like I feel like when people are wanting to create a new workout routine or make new healthy food habits,
Mhm.
you can physically feel yourself resisting doing that chore,
Mhm.
doing that activity, making your meal, going to the gym.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any tips or tools that you use when you know you need to make a shift and you can feel yourself resisting doing the thing that you know is going to serve you?
I sit down and I get really honest with myself to identify what that resistance is
Wow.
because it's coming from usually underlying fears.
Yes, that's what I just heard myself say here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
So,
like, what
like,
is that?
exactly. And so there's no way to know unless we take the time to really,
No.
bring awareness to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And I think we often think we're slowing down and being quiet, but we're really not slowing down, being quiet, and asking the questions. And I think this is just a great reminder to people that are listening that there are times of day where it's better to get more quiet, where
Mhm.
there's less noise in the world. So, like early in the morning and late at night, there's just less consciousness. More people are asleep. So, it's like the internet's going to work better because there's less people online. Our
Mhm.
consciousness and our ability to hear ourselves and allow those things to drop in work better early in the morning and late at night. That's when we
Mhm.
can, really settle into the hard truths with ourselves.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are so focused on being busy rather than being productive. And
Mm,
you're not being productive if it's not in alignment with, your values and your truth and where you actually want to go. It doesn't
yes,
really matter what you're doing if it's not
yes,
aligned with your grand vision, with who you want to be. So just doing things is sometimes the most unproductive things you can do because you haven't just like sat with yourself in stillness and reevaluate, okay, what am I actually doing? Like, where am I going? Do I have to change things up? Am I being lit up by this? Does it
mhm,
like, charge my soul up? Do I feel it in my heart, or I'm just doing it because I've always done it or because I think that's what I'm supposed to be doing?
exactly, exactly. I've gotten to a point just over there. I have a poster board and I literally have a sign that says, "What lights me up?" So I
Mm,
can start every time I get lit up by something, I can start writing it down so I can reevaluate how I can have more of that into my life.
I love.
It's just kind of taking inventory,
Mm.
which we have to do more often than we.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we're not taught. Like I speak about this a lot. Like I never saw anyone in my family go to work and be excited about work. It was just a chore. It was just like this is what we need to get done. Like I never saw anyone close to me that was lit up by what they were doing. It was just something that you had to do to survive. So
Yeah.
I really had to reprogram myself of like I can actually work with what I love, like my purpose, my gifts. I get to channel that, and that is the most beautiful thing. And if you're not taught that, if you don't see that in your, closed environment, we have to be reminded like you came into this world to experience joy and love and pleasure and like channel your gifts and be who you are and have fun. And like we forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there's value in who we are.
Not what we do.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I would love to know, are there any foods that kind of help you with your spiritual practice that you find that you like to eat before or after you do work on yourselves or you do work on other people?
Ooh, I am just all about like high vibrating foods in general.
Yeah.
I'm very much, like I said, gut health is everything for me. I support a lot of women with gut health and hormonal health. So I eat very clean and I try to, I'm from Sweden, from Europe, so the quality of foods is a little bit different. So
Yeah.
especially here, I notice the difference in how my body responds to it. I try to go to the farmer's market every Sunday to get my fruits and vegetables. Like I really try to eat as clean and local as possible. And that's just how I see my body as a vessel, as
Yeah.
a temple. And in order for me to deliver, the best service or supporting others and for myself, I need to have a clear vessel and I need to eat food that makes me feel good and energized. So it's not a specific time or a specific day. It's just how I live my life in general.
I completely understand. In order to balance taking care of yourself, but also having a life, are
Mhm.
there different restaurants, cafes, coffee shops that you like to recommend? Catching up with people, hanging out, so you can, live more of a life and not always, prepare your own foods. Like, what are the places that you like going to LA right now that still kind of support your lifestyle?
Um, I love Erewhon.
Me too.
I mean, I know it's the most expensive grocery store like in the US, but I love Erewhon. And honestly, I don't love to go out and eat that much because I know that my body doesn't feel great
Yeah.
after. It sounds boring, but
No,
it's
I'm the
like
same way.
no, I understand. But I mean for most people or for a lot of people it might be like, but why don't you go out? But I love cooking and I love cooking with my friends or my partner. Like that's a really fun, intimate moment. Like
Mhm.
I'd rather do that, cook a big dinner and buy like quality produce than going out to eat at a restaurant and kind of feel shitty after.
Yeah.
So, but I do love Erewhon. I have this, I live in Larchmont and there's this beautiful little cafe called Cookbook that just opened and it's a
Oh,
market
yeah.
too. And you know it?
No, I've been wanting to go. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And so they have the best coffee. And they have like fruits and vegetables and fun little things. So, I've been going there a lot
Okay,
because I live
perfect.
right by it.
Yeah, I will definitely go and check it out. I think, do they have a second location in another part of town in like Silver Lake?
Ooh, I don't know. I haven't
I
looked into it.
I think they might have a second location.
Oh,
But I've been wanting to go. So
yeah,
this will definitely be my sign.
I do love that. And if I want to, eat something a little crazy, I go to Clark Street because they have Swedish pastries. So Swedish cinnamon
Yeah.
buns, cardamom buns, vanilla buns. That's like my treat.
Are there any traditional Swedish ways of detoxing, healing, nourishing the body that you really love to kind of find when you're in Europe traveling?
I think we're just a little bit more healthy in general. There's a lot of walking. So we walk everywhere. If we're going somewhere and it's like a 20-minute, 30-minute walk, we're walking. There's no
I love that.
question. So
Yeah.
like it's just when I go home, I'm like, oh, I'm up to like 20, 30,000 steps in a day. And then also sauna is really big, like dry
Yeah.
sauna. Um, yeah, I'd say those are the main things. And then that's just the food. We eat pretty healthy. Everything is just very home cooked. My mom has her own little garden, so when I go home to the country house, we eat her vegetables, and I love that.
I love that too. Well, if people want to work with you, learn more about you, learn with you, where can they connect with you and follow you?
So they can follow me on Instagram, Andrea Somer. That leads to my website and all the other my programs. I offer one-on-one coaching and mentorship. And I do my one-off somatic healing sessions. I have a group class every other Tuesday at a place called the Breathing Room, which is
Ooh, yeah.
beautiful. In Westwood, they have so many cool new technologies of meditation soma pods, vibration beds. They use VR reality to do the visualizing and the deeper meditations. So that's a cool place to come check out
That's
and do breath
so
work with
cool.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it called again?
The breathing room.
The breathing room. And what day of the week are you there?
I'm there every other Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
check it out.
cool. Absolutely. And if someone's considering doing somatic therapy, should they consider one session, three sessions? What do they need to know to prepare themselves kind of for success?
It depends. It depends on what your intention is and what you're currently moving through in your life. But, if it's your first time, I always say let's do one session and see how that is for you, how you feel about it. And I always offer continuous support. So when you do a healing session with me, I don't just say like, okay, bye. Okay, see you next time. I check in with you. You get my support after because
Oh,
integration is the most important thing.
yeah.
There's things that comes up and that are really profound in the moment, but then you're still working through things after. So I think it's really important to understand that, the integration process is important and support in that is also really.
And can you leave our listeners with maybe one last health or wellness tip that they can consider adding into their life?
Connect to your breath. I have to say that like it is we do it on autopilot, but the moment we just check in with our breath and breathe deeply throughout the day like multiple times, that's the connection to yourself and your body, and like just take a moment to take a few deep breaths and that will change your life, honestly.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.